Rates of
I think
antisocial...
the idea of the female gossip probably predates 30 years.
Well, it does.
By a long time, but that doesn't doesn't make it gospel.
But
really,
people
does it?
have no, it doesn't. But people have looked at how women express. Look, women have to express aggression somehow, unless you're willing to say that they're not aggressive. They tend not to do it physically, not to the degree men do. So they use other channels. And what other channels are there other than physical aggression? If you're going to be aggressive, well, you go after people verbally. You go after them with innuendo and gossip and reputation destruction. And that's how it works.
And just to be clear, that you think that's predominantly a female modus operandi?
It isn't that I think that.
Well, I'm
it's that
asking
the
you.
clinical literature indicates that. It isn't that I think it.
Well, I'm not interviewing the clinical literature. I'm interviewing you. What do you think?
Well, I'm a psychologist and a scientist,
You're
and
a
I tend to base my opinions on what I've read in the broad, relevant clinical literature. I'm not making this stuff up. I studied antisocial behavior for like 15 years. I'm actually quite an expert on it. And so we know that men are more likely to look at it this way. All right. Women are much more likely to try to commit suicide. And men are much more likely to kill themselves. And the reason for that is that men use lethal force and women don't. Now that's a big difference. Okay, so then you say, well, women manifest aggression towards themselves and to others, but they don't use lethal force. They don't use physical force the same way men do. So they have to do it some other way.
Why do
what
they
are the
have
other
to
ways?
do something some other way? That you
Because
can take
people
your
are
Hobbesian
aggressive.
war against, so you're basically a Hobbesian. Life is
No, I'm
war
half
all
and
against
half,
all.
half and half. Half Hobbes, half Rousseau. That's why I'm not an ideologue. Because I don't think that people are good or evil. I think they're both. I don't think that culture is security or tyranny. I think it's both. And I don't think that nature is benevolence or catastrophe. I think it's both. And that's why I'm not an ideologue.
Where do you stand on the Me Too campaign? Good thing?
I think that it risks damaging the presumption of innocence. I mean, there's plenty
Is there more to it than that?
Oh, sure. Women face the arbitrary admixture of sexual advance and workplace performance all the time. It's a very complicated thing to sort out. We don't know how to sort it out exactly because, NBC, for example, the American TV station, has made it policy that you're not to hug your co-workers, which, may be true. Although I don't think it's the sort of thing that a corporation might be deciding for people. But we don't know exactly what the rules are for governing male and female behavior in the workplace because we've only been working together for about 35 years.
What is the lesson of the Harvey Weinstein story for you?
Someone should have said something about Harvey Weinstein much sooner.
But we could start somewhere else. We could start with Harvey Weinstein was wrong to do what he did before we get other people should have spoken out. That's a secondary order issue.
Fair enough. I thought that went without saying. There are going to be psychopathic predators. They're going to exist. And what has to happen is that people have to stop them because they won't stop themselves. And so I thought that was sort of implicit in the statement. Obviously, he shouldn't have done what he did.
But you don't think that the culture in which he was operating, that there was particularly in his world,
Hollywood?
In his world and in many other worlds, that there was a culture of, this guy's a powerful guy. He's the great silverback gorilla here. Let him get on with it.
Oh, I think that culture was everywhere in Hollywood, which is why I think
Not
it's
just in
actually
Hollywood?
quite... Well, Hollywood particularly. I mean, the casting couch idea has been around for a very long period of time.
What's the sensible thing for women to do about Me Too, to your mind? And what's the less sensible thing?
That's a hard question. It isn't obvious to me exactly what men and women have to do in the workplace to make that kind of sexual predation much less likely, with also subjecting themselves to restrictions on the sexual aspect of their existence that would be unbearable. It's very difficult.
What would be unbearable about that?
How about everybody wears the same uniform to work? That's what the Maoists... Well, look, if you want to eliminate the differences between men and women sexually at the workplace, you have to constrain the sexual differences. I mean, men wear suits to work.
Well, we don't have to eliminate the sexual differences for people to work together with respect.
You have to eliminate them to some degree.
Why? I'm genuinely
because you're trying
puzzled.
the question here is, to what degree should sexually related behavior be impermissible at the workplace?
Dinner parties, which are described in a foreword to your book, where friends enjoy debates and disagreements. Do you think in the broader conversation we've lost that spirit or in danger of losing that spirit?
Oh, I think I think we're always in danger of losing that spirit, right? Because lack of freedom is much more probable than freedom. We have to be very careful to maintain that because it's always under threat. But I do feel that it's under threat now. I think that people are very careful about what they say in ways that aren't good. I think the fact that many comedians won't perform on university campuses now is a very good indication of that. That's a canary in the coal mine scenario.